Michael, we had Rex Chapman on in the first hour, and I asked him his thoughts on Klay Thompson's comments about the Boston crowd using foul language and things of that nature. You know, things that you absolutely would not hear from Klay. And he read into it to say that Thompson isn't clearly yet the same player that he used to be. And most likely will be again coming up this fall, and deep down knows he might not have the old Klay Thompson necessary to shut this crowd up, and that may be part of the frustration level of him giving a comment like that. I wonder what you think, Michael.
Rex is one of my favorite people to talk to, and has been since he was, just out of Kentucky a million years ago. But those are separate things to me, or they can be. They are. I mean, first of all, I agree with Rex's assessment that Klay made that. Klay said about 6 weeks ago, it was right at the beginning of the playoffs, maybe at the end of the regular season, so it might have been 8 or 9 weeks ago, that he was just getting his legs back, that he couldn't guard, he couldn't defend like he was accustomed to. And to me, that's to be expected. And there were a lot of people who said coming back in that Klay would need to get into that second season before he felt like himself again if he could get there. And that's one thing. I mean, what the crowd is saying, I'm not familiar with. Look, I have like most people of my age who are of color, I have a complex relationship with Boston, the Boston Garden, and the Boston Celtics fans. Very complex. Only place I've ever been called the N-word, and it wasn't the N-word that was used, to my face in public was in the Boston Garden, the old Boston Garden. So I know some of the nasty things they Rich, and that has nothing to do with performance. Those things are separate, and they are considerable. So there's Klay Thompson's ability to perform and whether he can get back to where he was. And then there is what is being said by some fans. I think I'm sure it's a decreasing number of fans compared to the 1980s or 70s or 60s. I'm sure it's a decreasing number. And Boston is an evolving city. But let's not pretend that everything said is just about sport, or everything said is above the fray, because it hasn't been historically. Again, this is an evolving city. The relationship is complex. I enjoy walking around. I enjoy Boston in a way that I did not 35 years ago if I was here for a series. And so those are, when people talk about what's being said, unless they are willing to repeat it to you verbatim, we don't. I don't know what Klay was talking about in this case. I can find out, because if I talk to Klay, he's going to tell me exactly what was said. And I have not heard that sort of thing in recent years. I have not. Doesn't mean it's not being said. And again, I think it's decreasing. I think it has. I know there are fans who are self-policing. There are fans who have come up to me. I'm sitting outside of Starbucks right now in Boston in a hotel that I'm staying in. I had a fan come up to me and he said, "Hey, I've heard you talk about this in the past." And he said, "I'm one of those people that will shout folks down when I hear this." And I said, "Have you heard it?" And he said, "Yes, I've heard it. This is this white guy in his late 30s. And, it's an interesting thing. And by the way, Boston ain't the only place where that happened or has happened. It is a place where it has sort of famously happened. But, I'm not about to equate those two or connect those two. What was said to Klay Thompson is what was said to Klay Thompson, whatever that was. And Klay's ability or inability to get his game back is a completely separate topic to me.